So the advantage of an unbound form over a bound form is that if we accidentally make changes and then close the data, it doesn't change the data. So we actually have safety here, but the problem with this obviously is now we need to save the data. So when I've actually typed in the right information, I actually do want it to save the data. So what we need to add now is the ability to save the data, a button here, but the button needs to do something. It needs to be able to take the data off this form and then change the table. Now previously obviously the bound fields would have done so, but we've now got to force it, and that's where a different type of query comes in. If I go to query design, and the table I'm interested in this case is a TBL learner, which is there. Now I'm only going to worry about, going to need the learner ID. Now the learner ID I'm going to need because I need to be able to identify which record in that entire table I'm referring to. So when I'm updating a particular user's record in from learner, what it will do is it will say, right, this is the row you're working on, because at the moment there's no way it knows which record I'm working on. So we've got that. The only other two I'm going to worry about is first name and last name. If I was doing this for real, clearly I would pull all of these in, but that would take ages just to type through this. Now this is an ordinary select query, so if I run this at the moment, it simply selects the data, and we've seen that. This is a standard query. But actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this. I'm going to go up to the top here, and there's the select, and I'm going to look across to the update. That means I want to make changes to existing data, and you can see make the query update the data in an existing table. So I'm going to click on update, and that changes the way that this query looks. I've got two boxes here, update to and criteria. Criteria we've had before. What rule do you want me to apply? And that's easy, because I want this to look for the learner ID that's already embedded within the form. Remember, though the fields aren't bound, the form is bound, so we can use that. I'm then going to tell it to update these properties, so the TBL learner in TBL learner first name and TBL learner's last name. Update to, and I'm going to tell them to use the fields that I'd already got here and here. Now if you remember from previously, we had the properties. This one was called txt first and this was called txt last. So I'm going to use that in these sections here. But I can't simply type in the name because the query doesn't actually understand what I'm talking about. I have to tell it what I'm dealing with. So the first thing I've got to do is tell it that I'm dealing with forms. And you can see up pops a little message telling me what I'm looking for. An exclamation mark then says, right, that's what you're dealing with. Which form? I'm going to be dealing with form learner, from learner. A full stop, whoops, put a full stop, not lots of things. And then I get all these little properties, and if I scroll right down to the end, I should start to see my TXTs appearing in that list. Now if you can't see it, and I can't see it there, it's hidden away. I don't want to use these because these are the records, these are the records in the table, so I don't want to do those. If you can't see it, that's fine. Simply type it in txt first. In fact, sorry, this is a complete lie. All I want there is I do want learner ID, and you can see it's in the list. Let me just stretch that out so you can see the whole statement. So that's the whole statement. Forms, exclamation mark, and it's put these square brackets around it. That's fine, that's up to Access to do. We know they don't have to be there because we're not using spaces, but that solves that problem. We're going to use the same format under the update. This is actually looking to the embedded learner ID that's part of the bound form. But this part, so we haven't got a field called learner ID obviously, but it is a bound field on there. But we're then going to use the same thing. So it's going to be forms. It's going to be the exclamation mark to say, right, we're definitely working with a form, definitely working with from learner dot txt first. And same one for the next one, forms, exclamation mark. Oh, if I can type forms, that would make it much more useful. From learner, which is that one. And then .txt last. And as I said before, what I would do is I would normally do this, so I would take them all across for all of the individual ones there, and I'd have to have the names written down, and you can start to see why, as I say before, why you need a design sheet, because you need to be referring to a piece of paper in front of you to make sense of all this. Now I'm going to close this query, but I can't run it because of course I haven't got these properties. You're just going to have to trust at the moment that that works. I'm going to say yes to that, and I'm going to call this one query underscore update learner. Click on OK, and now that's the update, and you can see the symbols change for the query. So that's good, we've got that one. Okay, so back to our form. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to pull a button in, I'm going to click. I'm going to go to miscellaneous right at the end, and we can see run query. Next. Query update learner. Next. I can choose how I want this to do, but I might just change this and have it say save. Next. Remember to give this a suitable name, so save, btn save is fine for this form because then I'm going to know what it does, and I'm going to put that. Now it doesn't actually have to be there, I could put it onto the form, but there's nothing wrong with putting it up here as well. There is actually, you're right, the human eye won't necessarily be drawn to there. We normally work across and we're quite happy to work up and down, but we expect the end result to be at the bottom. So I would have a save button right at the bottom. And clearly we're only saving this data, and you'd have to work on saving the subform at the same time. But well, in fact we may have a look at how we could do that automatically, but we won't do that in a moment. So we're going to have that there. Now I'm going to save this now, and I'm going to click on view, and you can see that I've got Mick there, and if I type EY, we've already seen it. If I close this form down, it doesn't change the data, go back. But if I add EY now, then I get save. I get an error message. It's not actually an error, it's warning me I'm about to run an update query. So my answer to that is yes, I'm about to update, yes, and that's done what it needs to do. How do I know that? Let's close it down, and I can see it says Mickey Mouse in there, and it's saved the data there. Now I can switch off that warning. I'm going to show you how to do that with the next video, but that shows you how to save data using an update query. Hopefully that's been useful.